and you're listening to The Truth Tank, and I'm your host, The Tank. If this is your first time listening to The Truth Tank, a big welcome. If you're a repeat listener, welcome back. This episode is going to be a quick one. It's going to be a quick movie review on the latest installment to the Marvel franchise, Captain America Brave New World. I'm not the biggest Marvel fan. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Marvel. I've seen all the big main movies like The Avengers, Deadpool, Wolverine, things like that. I haven't seen all of the spin-off sequel character films like Captain Marvel 2 or whatever the fuck it's called. I haven't seen the TV shows. I don't have time to watch another 20 Marvel TV shows on top of the 20 movies to understand everything, to understand how this movie ties into that one and that one ties into this show and this show connects to that show but ties into that movie but also connects back to that other movie which is going to play a part in another movie that's 2 movies ahead of whatever's out at the moment. Last year there's only one Marvel movie, which was Deadpool and Wolverine, which was a nice change. I think there's been multiple Marvel movies released since about 2007. This is one of the first years where they've only had the one film, and I'll be reviewing the latest installment on tonight's episode. So without further ado, let's get into tonight's show. This is the Weekly Tank, episode 4, episode 73 of the Truth Tank, film review, Captain America Brave New World.
We are the Brutal, Bizarre, and Boozy podcast. I'm Declan, the son.
And I'm Jane, the mom. This is the podcast where we talk about brutal crimes like serial killers and the random one-off murder. We will tell you about bizarre occurrences like alien abductions and monsters in the dark. And we just might get you drunk with cocktails themed around one of our stories.
At the very end of every show, we like to lighten things up and cleanse the palate from the tragic and terrifying stories. So we end our time with a chaser. You might get to hear crazy stories about our pets or just silly movie recommendations.
Give us a listen. We are the Brutal, Bizarre, and Boozy podcast.
Captain America Brave New World kicks off 2025's Marvel lineup. It's the first of this new era of Marvel movies. Long gone are the Avengers and all the iconic superheroes. They've kind of had their day. And now it's time for all the sidekicks and, well, let's face it, second-tier heroes to have their moment in the sun. Captain America films were always some of the better Marvel movies. Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Civil War are 2 of my favourite Marvel movies. They were really fucking good. Winter Soldier's, I think, probably one of my favourite. It didn't have to have this, over-the-top alien invasion, huge threat kind of storyline. It focused more on this personal conflict, which I thought really worked well with Steve and Bucky. And what better way to usher in a whole new era of Marvel movies and to kickstart the rotation of Marvel's 2025 lineup. I've always liked Anthony Mackie's films. I thought he was great in the previous Captain America and Avengers films. The Falcon's a cool character. I haven't watched a TV show, so I don't know all that backstory and how all that stuff connects and all that other shit. So Anthony Mackie was good, but wasn't really enough to get me into another Captain America. I kind of thought it was a bit unnecessary. The big draw card for me was the addition of Harrison Ford to the cast. And he obviously takes over from the late William Hurt. General Ross has been played by several actors over the course of the very many incarnations of Marvel films, mainly in the Hulk universe. Sam Elliott played him in the Eric Bana Hulk movie back in, 2003. He was played by William Hurt in The Incredible Hulk, and he obviously carries over the role in, Captain America Winter Soldier, I think it was. Harrison Ford being cast as General Ross was a great move by Marvel. Well, personally for me anyway, because Harrison Ford's my favourite actor, and that was the big interest and draw card for me, was seeing Harrison Ford in the MCU. Otherwise, I'm not sure I could be bothered. I probably would have seen it, but I really wanted to see it solely because Harrison Ford is in it, and he does a fantastic job of General Ross. He goes a bit of a different way, and this is, I think, the first time where he's really been kind of more of a main character than a kind of a secondary background character. He's very much a more three-dimensional character in Brave New World. than he has been in the previous Marvel films. I don't think he was really in it in Civil War that much. William Hurt never really got a chance to shine, because Ross is a bit of a unhinged, obsessive kind of character. Harrison Ford does a very good job of getting all those different components to Ross's personality and kind of mixing them up. Is he the old Ross? Is he the new Ross? Or is he just pretending to be, the face of the country in the president? And is he really hiding some deep, dark secret? The mustache is gone. There's a scene in the film, and spoiler alert before I get too ahead of myself, where Harrison Ford's got the mustache and like the buzz cut, and it looks fucking fantastic. I kind of wish he kept the mustache for the entire film. So the film kicks off in a little different form. It doesn't have the Marvel comic book like the traditional opening, or at least it must have gotten cut out in my cinema, because it just has this black and white Marvel Studios, and it kind of gets straight into it, which I thought was a bit weird. So the film starts off in this Post Avengers World, where the Avengers of old are no longer around to protect against threats. General Ross has become president and preaching unity and togetherness, trying to bring the people together and reiterating that there are still threats out there. And before the film started, one of the trailers was Marvel's Thunderbolts, which I actually, after seeing the trailer, I'm actually looking forward to seeing it. That looks pretty funny. And once again, this is all going to lead into the new Avengers film, Avengers Doomsday. There's a big conspiracy and plot in this film to assassinate the president and to make him look like the bad guy or the villain that he kind of always was. The one thing I did really like about the film is there's a lot of action. This film is really well paced. There's not a lot of dead space. It's just one thing after the other. I'd never heard of the director, but I was pretty impressed. The action scenes are pretty decent, and it is very different in tone to a lot of the Marvel films. It doesn't quite feel like a superhero movie until you get the scenes with Anthony Mackie and the other dude as Captain America and the new Falcon. Besides the obvious superhero shit in it, you wouldn't really know you were watching a Captain America film. It's very different. He's not as confident as Steve Rogers, and I did like that aspect of Mackie's Captain America. He's trying to live up to Steve Rogers, but struggles. He's become this like godlike character, and he's saying, how do I live up to this dude? He stopped 2 alien invasions and did all this, and he's having issues trying to see this plot unraveling in front of his eyes. And besides the action, there's a definite spy espionage element to this film. There's a lot of kind of cloak and dagger kind of stuff. I did like it. It does get a bit convoluted sometimes. There's a lot of things happening in the story, and you're trying to figure out who the fuck's this, how does this fit into that. And once again, like, I haven't seen these TV shows, and I think there's a lot of the TV shows that carry into this film. The other thing, it's kind of a pseudo sequel to The Incredible Hulk. Some of the characters and events and ideas in that carry directly over to this film, which I wasn't expecting, but I wasn't surprised. I kind of figured they would have to reintroduce General Ross and give a bit more of his backstory into like what he had done before the Avengers. That was obviously before the Marvel Studios Kevin Feige era, but it was cool. There is that continuity, even though the Hulk is a completely different incarnation of the Hulk. But at the same time, it's a little confusing because it's like, does that connect to like the Edward Norton Hulk? Because the Mark Ruffalo Hulk is very different. And I think we need to have another Hulk film at some stage. I think that would be fucking cool. And Mark Ruffalo definitely has earned his own film in this. If Black Widow got her own film, the Hulk should at least have one more try to raise the bar, set the standard for Hulk films. The Eric Bana one was good. It was good for its day, but it's just such a weird film. I don't think Ang Lee was the best choice of director. The second one was, I kind of get what it was trying to do. Like it was trying to do its own thing, but at the same time, it was made like a couple of years before the Marvel Universe was announced. Then it more or less became redundant. And it was kind of like the last Aquaman movie. Yeah, it's not the worst movie in the world. It's not the best movie in the world, but it's completely useless now because the DCEU doesn't exist anymore, and it's the last film in a franchise that, let's face it, is on the scrap heap of film history. Thanks to Zack Snyder. I should do an episode on that. I got some strong feelings on that. I mean, it's such a hit and miss franchise and such a wasted opportunity. It's really aggravating when you think like they had the perfect Batman and Superman, and then they somehow fucked that up. So back to Brave New World. So there's a plot involving going to Mexico and getting unobtainium that was stolen from the Japanese, who are one of the nations fighting over the celestial body island thing in the middle of the ocean. That shitty Eternals movie where that big titany thing falls out the sky. That's full of unobtainium, and all the countries want it pretty much. And it kind of kickstarts this new arms race of who can get the fancy new metal to make all this technological shit. And it's no surprise General Ross wants it for the US. He wants to make weapons and defense and technology and consumer products. And that's what Harrison Ford does really well in this movie. Like, you kind of don't know which way he's going to go. Is he a turned around General Ross? Is he the same old General Ross? Is he the war hawk masquerading behind the guise of a president to bring people together and, be the man of the people? Or is he still that dyed-in-the-wall military villain that he always has been? And there's a great connection back to Liv Tyler from The Incredible Hulk, who she plays his daughter. So there's a bit of a connection, and riding the ship and bringing another old new character into the MCU. And I hope we see more of Harrison Ford in future Marvel films. I think he's definitely added a really surprising new element to the franchise. And at this point, I think everybody's been in a Marvel film. I mean, Robert Redford was in Captain America Winter Soldier. So why not have some more bigger name veteran actors that can get an older audience interested? So there's this mysterious plot. They're supposed to meet this buyer, the Serpents or whatever they are. The leader is Giancarlo Esposito, however you pronounce his name, from Mandalorian and Breaking Bad. He was great. I wish there was more of him. He's supposed to steal this unobtainium. The buyer doesn't show. Captain America saves the day, brings the unobtainium back to the president, who transfers it back, who gives it back to the Japanese. I also got a very strong sense in this film that the door has definitely been opened for the X-Men to come into the MCU finally. I may have referred to the metal as unobtainium, which is obviously from Avatar, not from Marvel. Adamantium. Any Marvel fan worth their salt knows that adamantium is the metal that is infused to Wolverine's skeleton and what his claws are made out of. So I get this huge feeling that Wolverine is definitely going to be introduced, hopefully this year, into the MCU. In what form that would take, I don't know. Deadpool and Wolverine definitely closed the door on Fox's X-Men, and I think that Brave New World is definitely opening the door for the X-Men to come in. I also get this sense that there's going to be this collision of multiverses in this, kind of like DCU. More so the TV shows than their movies, which will be interesting. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Marvel fan, but this has definitely got me interested. I'll definitely be seeing all the Marvel films this year. And this is obviously the big build-up for the Avengers Doomsday. Back to Brave New World. So the pacing is good. There's this, plot. Someone was supposed to pay $50 million for this canister. The buyer doesn't show. Bad guy gets away. President is nearly assassinated during this presentation about adamantium and how to deal with all these nations wanting access to this metal. There's a bit of a Manchurian Candidate scenario where some assassins get out of the crowd and try to assassinate the president. And the whole time I'm thinking, did he set this up himself to get more control? Is this the old Ross, or is this a genuine assassination attempt? There's an older character, Bradley. He's another Captain America who spent 30 years in jail because of Ross, who's invited to the White House with Mackie and the Falcon. I don't know anything about that character. If he was a comic character, he's probably in one of the TV shows. He was pretty cool. So you're thinking, is he trying to assassinate the president because of the 30 years in prison? But there's a whole bunch of other people that try to do the same thing, and this whole assassination conspiracy unravels, and Captain America is trying to figure out the next step. They find some covert site out in the woods somewhere, and Samuel Stearns, another carryover character from The Incredible Hulk, played by Tim Blake Nelson. He's a fucking great actor. When you first hear his voice, I was thinking, I know that voice. Is that who I think it is? And it turns out it was, because I can't remember anything about that Incredible Hulk movie apart from Edward Norton and Tim Roth. So having another carryover character was pretty cool. You give that guy 5 seconds or 5 minutes in a movie, he's going to make a memorable character. He's this mutated, like, nerdy version of Bruce Banner, mutated by gamma rays. The story does get a little convoluted sometimes. It does a very good job of hiding who is responsible, but at the same time it convolutes things, because you're kind of thinking, hold on, like, this dude's working on some military base. The president knows this military base exists and who this guy is, but he hasn't kind of figured this out until, a bit later on. And, like, what the fuck? Like, why hasn't it been shut down, and why does this guy have his own, like, military guards, unless he's on the payroll of someone important like the president? And then, we get filled in later on in the film. And the more the film goes on, the more General Ross starts to come undone. He gets angrier and more unhinged, and his face kind of gets redder as the film goes on, which is, a big obvious clue of who's hiding under the surface. He has to take these pills every couple of hours or so, and he makes this deal with Stearns because he was dying, his heart was failing, and he came up with this idea to prevent the heart failure, and he has to take these pills every couple of hours that are infused with gamma rays, and his brain was supersized, so he ends up using him as his own personal think tank to come up with tactics and scenarios that would benefit him and the country. And ultimately Stearns pretty much turns into a prisoner, and he's ultimately imprisoned in this facility because he's a benefit to General Ross. But at the same time, when the assassination attempt was carried out, you'd think he'd be one of the first people that General Ross would look into. And wouldn't you make a couple of phone calls to see that everything was still above board at this facility? He has a contact he does ring throughout the film. He says, the prisoner is secure, but there's not a lot of backstory to how he got out. He's so heavily supervised, he's allowed to do research, but nobody really figures out what he's working on. So this leads to the discovery of the lab and Captain America to unravel the plan, and the president's head of security to get involved. I'm pretty sure Captain America is driving a electric Hummer, which looked fucking cool. He's got some cool cars in this film, which is ironic because for decades the Hummer has been notorious for being a gas-guzzling giant that isn't really up to the current ecological standards of vehicle manufacturing. The original Hummer had atrocious fuel economy, so did the H2. I remember my friend told me he knew someone who had one, or it cost this person, this is back in the day when petrol wasn't $2 a litre, it was much cheaper. It cost like $450 to fill up. That was like the mid-2000s, 2012, something like that. So it's kind of incredible that a company like that has gone all electric. So the film progresses, the plot becomes clearer and clearer. There's a big standoff in the ocean around the celestial body. General Ross gets angrier and angrier, and the thread starts to unravel with him. The plot has become clearer. Some F-18 pilots go rogue and nearly cause an international incident. The general's big secret is about to be exposed, but he covers it up just at the last second. He's being taunted by Stearns the whole film into playing this kind of a cat and mouse game where he has to expose the sins of the past to everybody if he wants this game to stop. The movie does jump around a bit. It's kind of like half Jason Bourne, half superhero, half Bond. There's a lot of different elements chucked into this, but I did really like it because it kind of does its own thing. And Harrison Ford plays an excellent president. He's played the president twice now, and he's done a better job as playing the president than some of the real-life presidents, and he's done far less damage to the White House than Biden did. So he's becoming a bit more unhinged and a bit more unraveled. And the whole film, he's going to turn into the Red Hulk, but they keep delaying it and putting it off. Just when you think he's going to turn, he's brought back down and he calms down, which is, I love that, drawing it out as long as possible because you're going to get this big finale. So this international incident is stemmed, and you think everything's gone quiet. Then Stearns appears at the Naval Hospital, which leads into this big finale where we get the showdown between Captain America and Red Hulk. The president's giving a speech at the White House, and there's Stearns' voice comes on air. The president gets angrier and angrier and finally snaps. Secret Service tries to calm him down, and he turns into the Red Hulk, trashes a bunch of shit. We finally get the showdown between the Red Hulk and Captain America. Captain America takes a battering. Red Hulk is very powerful, and I get the feeling we're going to hopefully get a Red Hulk versus Green Hulk at some stage. Lots of shit gets destroyed. He tries to calm Ross down. Mackie does a fantastic job as Captain America too. He doesn't copy what Chris Evans does. He's obviously been mentored and groomed to take over from him. He was a sidekick as Falcon, and now he's taking on this role as Captain America, which he's already done in a TV show. So I guess you probably need to see the TV show to get that filled in. I thought there's a lot of gaps, and I might have to watch the show. Last time I saw him, it was Avengers Endgame, so I haven't seen how he's gone from Falcon to Captain America. He does a really good job of playing this, not copying his own version of Captain America, but he's still upholding the morals and virtues of Steve Rogers. And he's trying to get him back, reminds him of his daughter. One thing leads to another, which brings us to the end of the film, and a really cool scene where Captain America visits Ross in that underwater prison, the raft, and we're reintroduced to Liv Tyler, and there's a really heartfelt moment between those two. I thought, are they going to bring her in, or is it just going to be some cheap AI knockoff Liv Tyler? So hopefully she joins future films as well, and I hope Harrison Ford is in a lot more MCU films to come. I thought he was by far the standout. I might be a little biased, as he is my favourite actor, but he did a fucking fantastic job of President Ross. And I'm looking forward to future sequels and the MCU going forward, which I didn't think I would be saying. So all in all, it's a pretty good film. It's a mashup of different genres. It's a bit convoluted and a little over the top sometimes, but I did appreciate it. It did its own thing. It didn't copy the other films. There wasn't any knockoff action scenes or anything, or plot lines. It didn't want to service the fans. It just wanted to tell a new story and open a new door to the MCU, which I did really appreciate, because I thought it was just going to be, just a lot of fan service, but it wasn't. I don't think it was any fan service in this whatsoever. It just does its own thing. Never heard of the director. I was pretty impressed. The action's very good. Kind of typical Marvel action superhero flick in some parts, but other parts was this kind of more brooding cat and mouse game. I'd call it a superhero film in the disguise of a spy thriller. I thought it was a little violent in some parts for a Marvel film, but maybe that's just me. I mean, the violence isn't ultra gory or anything. It's just it's quite blunt and brutal in some parts. But all in all, it's a pretty good film. Out of 5 stars, I'd probably give it 3.5, maybe 4 for Harrison Ford. But I'm definitely looking forward to Marvel from here on out. I will say, if you are going to stay for the credits, there is no mid-credit scene like there usually is after the main credits at the start. There is a cool post-credit sequence which sets up the future of the MCU, much the same way the original Iron Man did all those years ago. It's definitely giving this dark and foreboding sense that something big is on the way. No, I won't ruin it too much, but it's going to have some type of interdimensional consequences is what I took away from it. So all in all, pretty good film, and that brings us to the end of the show.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?
Turn your dial to find the frequency of the past.
Captain Advice.
Where the classic stories of mysteries, sci-fi, thrillers, and suspense are found waiting to be heard once again.
Another case for Nick Carter, Master Detective.
You'll find a variety of those stories here, in their original form, where each episode takes you to another place or time.
The Man of Bronze, Doc Savage.
But only when you find the mystery frequency. Available everywhere.
The shadow knows.
Big thank you to everyone who listened to the end. If you'd like to support the Truth Tank, there's a couple of things you can do. Head on over to the Facebook and Instagram page, give them a follow and a like, share them around with your friends. You can download and listen to your favorite podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Castbox, or wherever else you get your podcasts from. Tell your friends, to your family, tell anyone you think might like the show, help spread it around and get the Truth Tank out there. If you're enjoying the show, why not leave a 5-star rating and review? Each review helps the show grow and get found. And I'll be back in the next week or 2 weeks I'm trying to keep the momentum of episodes up with a brand new episode. But until then, I'm a Tank. This is the truth. Truth to tell.